Thanks everyone for joining us today. I'm Betsy Falco, I'm Deputy Commissioner for DEP's Bureau of Public Affairs. Today I'm also serving as the hearing officer for the public hearing on proposed water rates that will take effect or could take effect starting July 1st. First, we'd like to thank OMB for making this very nice, air-conditioned, very well air-conditioned venue available to us. This meeting's being recorded, and there'll be an audio recording and a transcript of the meeting that will be made available on our website at the board's website at nyc.gov/NYC-Waterboard. We've also placed several documents in the official record, including a notice appointing me as the hearing officer, verified copies of the public notices placed in the newspapers, a draft of the rates schedule listing the rates and billing policies for the coming year, a public information booklet describing the proposed rates, and copies of the written testimony received by the board so far. The draft rate schedule and the public information booklet are also available on our website, as is a copy of the presentation that you'll be hearing from today. The program for today includes two sections. First, senior representatives from DEP will present the proposed water rates for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024. And then members of the public will have an opportunity to make a statement. I think so far we've got one person registered. The purpose of this hearing is to allow the public to present their viewpoints and opinions on the proposed rates. We're here to listen and to take notes and to compile a record of the testimony, but this isn't intended to be a debate, so we won't be able to respond directly to questions or engage in any open discussion about the proposals here. If you do wish to speak but haven't already registered for a speaking slot, you have an opportunity still to do so. You can just see any of the staff with the DEP logo on, and we'll get you registered. If you'd like to provide testimony today but don't want to speak at this hearing, you also have options. You can provide written testimony either today or any time up until June 7th. Testimony can be sent to the board by email at nycwaterboard@dep.nyc.gov or by Old Brown Mail at 5917 Junction Boulevard, 8th floor, Flushing, New York, 11373. We've got several members of the Water Board here today, including Chairman Alfonso Parni, Adam Freed, who will be here shortly, and also Dan Zarilli. And that's my bit of the presentation today. So now you're going to hear from DEP's Commissioner, Commissioner Agarwal. Oh, I'm so sorry. I apologize.
No apology necessary.
I glossed over your entire opportunity to speak. Chairman?
Thank you, Beth. Only a few comments. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to welcome people who may have comments about the proposal. You've all read it, it's on the website, everybody knows what we're talking about here. It's just great to have people in who want to talk about that. We're here to take notes, we're here to listen. The board has not met to talk about the proposal. We can only do that in the public, with the public, and that meeting will occur on June 13th. Looking forward to that. It will be the first time that the first chance the board has had, our board, to spend time talking about DEP's proposal. What's important to know is that there may be individual points of view on the board, but that's what they are at this point. We're here to listen, to hear what folk have to say, to take notes, and then to get together, collect our thoughts, and think out loud about what it is that we need to do and what it's going to be. The commissioner is here today. Joseph is here today. Thank you, Joe. Our executive director and chief financial officer of DEP, the hearing officer who has introduced herself already, and of course Lamar Nodden, who is the treasurer of the board. We look forward to your comments. We're here to listen, to take notes. Please, if you've got things you want to say about this, say it. Beth, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. With that, I think we're going to start the presentation with DEP Commissioner Agarwal. Commissioner?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Dan. It's good to be here. I'm going to run through a couple of highlights on the agency's performance over the last fiscal year, and then turn it over to Executive Director Joe Murin and Omar to continue the presentation of the budget proposal and the rate hike. Of course, our core mission is providing drinking water to 10 million people in New York State, and our recently published 2023 water quality report highlighted that we continue to do a really good job of that. I'm very proud of that. That is something, of course, that we take very seriously, and I believe there are no concerns with our performance on that. Next slide. One thing I'll highlight that we've spent a lot of attention on over the last couple of years is working on maintaining our water main system to reduce the number of water main breaks. Every water utility has water main breaks. However, I'm really pleased that we are well above average in terms of reducing, or so well below average in terms of the number of these. And this year we are still, with a month left to go in the fiscal year, on track, knock on wood, to have the lowest number of water main breaks in the New York City system. So it's a big effort involving the way we manage pressure in the mains, but also an approach to using audio technology to sound the mains and listen to the leaks throughout the system. That we started in Manhattan, and as of this year, we've been doing in all 5 boroughs, and that's making a very clear difference. So it allows us to get small leaks before they turn into disruptive breaks. Next. We are also driving ahead with an ever-growing capital program. Over the next 10 years, we have $29 billion in our capital plan, which averages, of course, $3 billion a year roughly, and it's broken down here. It will be no surprise to anybody who's paid attention to what I've been saying or what we've been talking about with you at the board, that the largest single bucket of our capital plan going forward is sewers, because that is where we invest in stormwater management. And as the climate changes, stormwater management becomes ever more important. That's on our next slide. In fact, building on and thinking beyond our current capital plan, we have been working on thus far already a 2-year-long engineering effort to imagine what true stormwater resilience in New York City looks like. We recently issued an update on what we have done thus far. It involves a lot of detailed engineering work and a lot of investments to allow us to do better engineering work going forward, including, I'm really pleased with, what is effectively the first digital twin of the sewer system, a complete model of all of the sewers in the city, which we had never had in that way before, which allows us to do much better pinpointing of where interventions will make a difference. And integrating where we do green and gray infrastructure. So we are doing, for the first time ever, assessing flooding and thinking with an open mind, is this a place where gray infrastructure will make the most difference, where green infrastructure will make the most difference, or where a combination will make the most difference? That is, I think we may have copies here, or is that just the drinking water report?
It's available on the website.
Okay, it is on the website, and of course, the challenge here is daunting, and our estimate, which is really just a back of the envelope, is that there is probably on the order of $30 billion that New York City will have to invest to achieve a basic level of stormwater resilience, looking ahead to what the 5-year storm, which is our traditional design storm, will be 20, 30, 40 years from now. Next. We've been working very hard on a handful of milestone capital projects that that have achieved milestones and will achieve milestones over the next year or so. One to highlight here is the Kensico Eastview Connection, which is a critical project that provides redundancy in the connection between the Kensico Reservoir and the Catskill, Delaware ultraviolet treatment plant. And that will provide both security and increase our maintenance capability at that plant by providing a second aqueduct between those two sites. We are ready to, we are in fact in ready to issue an RFP, so that will go out over the next couple of weeks. But that is it's a $1.9 billion project, and something important, frankly, more than 100 years, right? That's something for the next 200 years of New Yorkers at least. Next slide, long awaited, but we are optimistic that we will get this done this year. The Delaware Aqueduct bypass, Rondout West Branch bypass itself, of course, has been complete for 2 years now, but we have been doing ongoing testing and preparation to make sure that we are ready for any contingency during the hazardous construction period that will commence, we expect, this October. There were some reasons 2 years ago that required us to postpone this. Those have been addressed. That was about ensuring water supply to the city, and we are absolutely confident that during the 6 months that the aqueduct is unavailable, that we will have full water supply with no constraints, no changes in pressure during that period. This last year we faced a delay because we had some concerns due to some initial tests around the potential for water to infiltrate the tunnel while construction workers are inside it. We've done further tests over the last 6 months that have assuaged our fears. We have impaneled an international panel of experts to review our findings. That is going on right now over the next couple of weeks. But we are fairly optimistic that we will be able to have a confident go decision to do the shutoff this October and get the bypass into service in late spring of next year. Next. Another project that is underway, the bids are in, we should be moving through the process of awarding a contract, is a significant set of upgrades to Hillview Reservoir that is part of the consent decree that eventually will lead to the covering of Hillview Reservoir. This set of projects will upgrade our facilities where we chlorinate the water right before it enters the distribution system. And that is a several $100 million project that, as I say, we expect to register the contract in the first part of fiscal year 2023. I'm sorry, fiscal year 25. And then, perhaps on a less weighty note, we've got a bunch of new playgrounds that we're very excited about, a partnership that's been going on for several years with the Trust for Public Land that is part of our overall green infrastructure effort. And here we've got a couple of playgrounds that we are breaking ground on just this month in Manhattan and the Bronx. And with that, I will turn it over to Chief Financial Officer Durham to talk about the financial update and the rate proposal.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, board members, for being here today, and for those in the public as well. So as has been previously announced, we're proposing this year to the board a recommendation of an 8.5% increase for the water and sewer rates for fiscal year 2025. The proposed increase ensures that the system will continue to reduce the revenue necessary to support strong bond ratings, and especially important consideration in light of the interest rate volatility in the last several years. It also aligns rates with what consumer and utility inflation trends. The 10-year average water rate increases so far is below New York City metro rate of inflation. You can see that on the lines on the chart there. This is comparable to the 8 to 9% rate increase some other large cities in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic region are proposing or have adopted over the last year. It's comparable also to recent regulatory rate increase case approvals. Those are mainly for investor-owned utilities such as gas and electric, included that have been in the mid to high single-digit rate as well. Next slide. One of the factors is for the need for this rate increase is revenue protection and continued customer service focus that DEP is on, focusing on after the 2023 amnesty program. As the board remembers, in 2023 we offered an amnesty program to encourage, long outstanding ratepayers who haven't paid their debt to come forward, and as a component of that, we gave them a relief on their interest rate charges. That was very successful. We collected $105 million while leaving $22 million in interest rates, mostly to moderate to low income ratepayers. We've also been pursuing other measures to ensure, revenue collections. Water shut-off notices began at the end of 2023. More than 600 properties have received notices, and it resulted in $3 million in incremental cash revenues. We're also having our Bureau of Customer Services partnering with outside counsel to assist with collecting past due balances from accounts with large amounts owed, including multifamily properties. While these efforts have significantly lowered delinquent accounts, as the chart shows, chronic delinquency rates increased and higher interest rates are resulting in a growing accounts receivable balance, which is now over $1 billion. And as a result, through mid-May, we've collected $3.71 billion of our target, which is just over $4 billion. That's 2% above where we were last year. But as the board members, we did institute a 4.42% increase last year, so we're slightly below where we should be at a percentage point below. So there is also consideration that has to be given to our ability to make sure that we're maintaining the revenue collections. Next slide. While recent city tax lien sales did not include water and sewer receivables, the next cycle of reauthorization of lien sale legislation may include water and sewer bills. The Adams administration is working with the City Council to reauthorize lien sales, which has been an effective tool in the past for purposes of managing past due water and sewer receivables. Since 2019, the city lien sale has not included water and sewer arrears, whereas previous lien sales included a combination of liens secured by property taxes, water and sewer, and emergency repair charges, which led to increased accounts receivable balances. The sale of liens during previous fiscal years, together with the pre-sale notification process, resulted in substantial revenues to the system and support lower required rate increases. Without the lien sale, other categories of revenue protection are available, including negotiated installments, agreements with customers, enforcing property liens outside the lien sale process, and reliance on the court system. A reauthorization of lien sale may include program changes and exemptions to protect vulnerable populations. So we're very, eager and working diligently with the Department of Finance, which also does the real property lien sales, to be able to get this through with the council. Next slide. So here is a bar graph showing a component makeup of the 8.5% increase. As we'll get into more, 3.1% is due to the recent decision to ask for restoration of the rental payment. So that was not forecasted, so that added to what was, what was originally projected for this year. It also includes O&M increases for system needs, 0.2%, which is primarily for stormwater programs. There's also the basic operating expense budget inflation. This is due primarily to personal service costs. There were significant collective bargaining settlements that the city undertook with city employees, as well as increase in the cost of fringe benefits for the city, and for the system as well. Debt service related to the ongoing expanded capital program. As the commissioner noted, the capital program is close to $30 billion for 10 years. So as that continues, we do need to service the existing as well as plan for the needs to cover the existing debt service as well. And then, there is also the factor that we need to consider, which is, conservation does continue to be, a good for the system. It means less water usage, but it also means that we have to cover that because the system costs are, for the most part, fixed. So as, the use of water goes down, the cost of being able to, spread that across the water base has to increase as well. So that is a factor that we need to take in as well. Next slide. The city's recent financial plan signaled an intent to include the rental as a recurring feature in the city's budget. So historically, and I think this was, a member Freed's question last time about some history on the rental payment. So payment of the rent to the city for use of water and wastewater assets owned by the city is allowed by the 1985 lease agreement between the city and the water board. That was signed following the passage of the legislation creating the current legal structure of the water and wastewater system in 1984. The rental payment was part of the lease for two reasons: to provide a mechanism for the city to obtain reimbursement for the cost of water and wastewater debt issued prior to 1985, and to reflect the economic value of an important part of the city's asset base. When the city requests rent, the amount of rent represents both an additional cost to the water and wastewater system that must be recouped through rates, as well as additional revenue sources to the city that become part of the city's general fund, available to fund city programs. The city's financial plan, released in April 2024, 2024 reflects a partial $145 million rental payment for fiscal year 2024 and a full annual rental payment for fiscal year 2025 and fiscal years 2028. And I will also note that it does, there is some historical other color on this in that it was formerly covering the old GEO debt service that the system inherited from the city. That has since been paid off, but it is now driven by a formula based on what the outstanding debt service is that the calculation is made on.
Jill, the partial payment is $145 million. What's the full projected to be?
The full payment, and that will get on the next slide as well, will be.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. For the partial is just for this year, so they're not going to ask for more than that for fiscal year 24. But for next year, it's projected to be $289 million. Both of those numbers are subject to change because they aren't finalized till the year end is closed out.
But they are both, in this case, a matter of contract.
Yes, they are a matter of contract.
When you said it's based on the outstanding debt service, what's the formula, what's that outstanding debt service for? Because the original is on the outstanding GEO bonds at the time, those have been retired.
No, it's out. What is the outstanding? Omar, help me here a little bit. I believe it's
They can request up to the
Yeah.
rate of the debt service on any old GEO bonds, which there are none,
Right.
or 15% of the debt service on water authority issued bonds.
Right.
I think they would request up to whichever those two numbers is greater, which is the 15%.
and it's not the debt outstanding; it's the cost of the debt service. Because that's we do have close to $32 billion, I believe, in outstanding debt at this time.
It's nice that they-
Yes, if I need to call Mr. Womack, I will, or a rate consultant at Marcus. But I can wait if you have any more follow-up on that. So, all right, to your question, Chairman. So the rental payment has been a component of the system for most of its history, as this chart shows, going back to when the system was initiated back in 1985. There were, as you said, under the previous administration, where there was a forgiveness or not requesting of the rental payment, due to the current fiscal situation, the administration has asked for it. The rental payment is one mechanism available to the city to obtain funding for the city's expenses and municipal programs, including expense categories such as police, fire, and sanitation, that directly benefit and protect the water and wastewater system. Since municipal assets are usually tax exempt, municipalities wishing to generate revenues for municipally owned assets often look to charge fees for use of assets or otherwise development payments structured with unlimited property tax, such as a rental payment as an alternative. Since the lease agreement was first signed, the city has requested rental payments from the water board in most years. I'll pause, members, questions, addition, or anything on that?
My other question is just the increase in what the rental payment is. Is that just reflecting higher interest rates, more outstanding debt?
It's more outstanding debt. So as the debt, the $30 billion, is indicated, the 30 billion is not smooth over a single year. It's projected to grow. And, the outlook is as we add more assets and have to get more debt to fund those assets, the interest, the cost of debt service will rise as well. So it goes in conjunction with that.
Pretty clear, yeah, thank you.
Next slide. Here goes with the chart showing that for fiscal year 25, we will continue to have lower than average charge compared to a 30 large city average. When we don't have the numbers for 25, but for 2024, we as New York City were at 1,088 for a single family home using approximately 70,000 gallons per year. The 30 city average was 1,372. So we're just about 20%. We've been fairly consistent with doing that. So I think even with the request for the rental payment, we should still be able to stay and maintain within this range, over the foreseeable future. Next slide. And getting to that, so speaking to how this will impact rate payers, for the average single family, again, 70,000 gallons per year, we're at 1,088 for the average. That'll go up to $1,181 so $7.71 a month, so just under $100 a year. For the multifamily meter charge, that's the average is about $808, go up by $8 to $877, $5.73. And the multifamily conservation program per unit, it averages $11.84, going up to $12.85, so an additional $8.39 a month. And we do want to highlight that again, we are keeping the minimum charge, which mainly benefits, seniors, those that are, minimal water users. We're keeping that flat again, so we think that's a good affordability measure that we have out there. Next slide. And here's a, financial breakdown of, the revenues and the uses of funds for the system. So as you can see, we're, needing to generate $4.4 billion in revenue for the system, of which the vast bulk of that comes from the customer ratepayers. That goes to pay, as we have gone through, significantly, nearly $2 billion for, operations and maintenance of the system. That's all the personnel costs, the, equipment, contract services, fringe benefits, to run the wastewater treatment plants, the water distribution, the entirety of the system's day-to-day operations. $1.7 billion in net debt service costs. That's for servicing the debt. $325 million for what we call capital market funds, pay-as-you-go capital. That's cash finance capital projects. That's a mechanism that the finance authority uses the cash instead of having to borrow, which saves on interest rates costs for the long term for the system. So we've been trying to enhance this, as a tool to help save in the long run for the system. Next we have the, with the water board and water authority operating costs. Those are for us as the water board. The various costs that we have for the water finance authority, those costs they have for managing the debt service and the various related costs to that. And then as highlighted, the rental payment as a new add-on to this. So it's really, when you say look at that, it's not just the $144 million, but both those are new adds that wouldn't have been in last year's rate presentation. So that's, as you said, it's adding 3% to the 8.5% of the rate. Next slide. And this does, as noted, there is a slight increase in capital and expense. Plus, we are having, about $683 million of additional capital that are covered in this plan, which is for the Hillview Reservoir, customer billing and water conservation technology, costs related to the Delaware Aqueduct. Most of these are items that the Commissioner spoke to, and then 4 pump stations for stormwater management. We also, as noted, have that $11 million in new initiatives for stormwater resiliency. Next slide. Omar, you want to handle this one?
Yeah, so this is a bit of a different slide. This is a sort of banking or consulting style slide. We show it just to make 2 points. We borrow money in the debt markets to finance the cost of our construction projects and our equipment purchases, and that's a useful technique because it lets us spread the cost out for what are often very expensive and long-term projects. But it introduces an additional source of uncertainty to the budget, which is that market interest rates fluctuate. And you can see that in this chart. They've been at a very low level during COVID, and then have rapidly increased since then. Now, on this chart, it's a little bit nuanced because these are the federal government's borrowing costs. These are not our borrowing costs. Our costs are based on municipal government borrowing yield curves. But we show this because it's a more familiar rate of interest, and the cost for municipalities to borrow is typically linked to this. So if you look at the shape of how those interest rates have ebbed and flowed, municipal rates resemble that pattern. So it's really 2 points. One, we have a source of budget uncertainty through market rates, and 2, those rates have been bouncing around more than is typical. So it's something that makes it's a subtext of the rate increase. We're looking at the higher borrowing costs going forward, as well as greater uncertainty based on recent market changes in what those costs to borrow the bonds are. 24 is just to remind people, when you sell bonds, as with a personal credit score, the bonds get a rating before they're sold, and then as they trade in the market. Those grades are, they resemble school grades. There's A's, B's, C's, and so forth, and sub-tiers within that. And the Water Authority has done an outstanding job of maintaining a credit profile and a financial profile of the system that has given us very, very high credit ratings. And that lets us borrow in the capital markets at good rates compared to what some municipalities are required to pay and what a lot of corporations are required to pay. So it's something that we are very proud of. The authority team here, David and Phil, are proud of, and justly so. And it's something we work very hard to maintain. The financial profile underwritten by the revenues and the rates, as well as the quality of management, two of the foremost things the rating agencies look at when assessing the bonds and making those recommendations on how they should be graded. There's two other things. This is, there are a lot of people who have been to these hearings for years now, so a lot of this is familiar to people, but the summary of this is the board has grown by leaps and bounds, I would say, since 2015 in terms of our philosophy and outlook on customer affordability. We did not have an extensive customer assistance portfolio prior to 2015. And step by step, we've introduced new programs, and expanded the programs, and modified the terms to where we now have what may be one of the largest, maybe the largest recurring customer assistance programs in the country. We have a $30 million a year portfolio of bill credits that we make available to customers at multifamily level as well as a small property owner level. And those programs are paired with special initiatives such as the amnesty program from last year that resulted in $100 million in bill credit relief, and our partnership with the state's Office of Temporary Disability Assistance to manage the federal low-income assistance program that delivered another $33 million in bill credits to our customers. So we have a core program that's a semi-permanent part of our rate schedule, this $30 million a year, and we are very, very thoughtful and opportunistic in partnering with government partners as well as standing up kind of one-time programs to address needs as we hear the request for demand and as we see trends in the receivables and trends in the city's economic profile that kind of seek to match that and to kind of buffer the ups and downs as it were. 27, this is a deep dive on the $30 million recurring portfolio. There are the two core programs, the multifamily program and the small family assistance program, which together are $26 million. And I think people here are mostly familiar with those. The last program, the very bottom, is a program I advertise. It's a program that is undersubscribed, and we budget $45 million a year for it, but we can do more. It's a program where if you observe unusual water consumption on your property, and it's attributable probably to a leak, but it could be a number of causes. But if you inspect it and you fix a leak, and we see a subsequent bill or two that have water return to trend, we can give you a credit of half that incremental cost of water. And that amount can be several $1,000s for a small property that has a leaky toilet or a problem with a swimming pool or something unusual that happens. And if that problem gets fixed and corrected, we can rebate half the cost of that excess water. And it's a program that I wish more people would sign up for. It's a very good program. It incentivizes you to track your consumption, get the e-alerts for leaks, and then take quick corrective action to fix the leak if you see it. And Commissioner, I'll hand it back to you if you have something.
Thanks, Omar. One final point. Last year, we had expressed that we were going to take a look at the multifamily conservation program rate. It was a long-standing program that was designed to offer billing certainty and incentivize conservation, largely for affordable multifamily buildings. The collection or the charging of the surcharge on buildings that are out of compliance or not proven they have undertaken the required conservation efforts has been suspended for a number of years, starting during the pandemic. And we took a long look at restarting this program in full and actually concluded that the program needs to be redone entirely. And so we think there's a big opportunity here to assist buildings that see value in predictable annual rates. There's value to the water board and the system with having a large number of customers that pay at the beginning of the fiscal year. So there's mutual benefit. But we don't believe that this system, this program is achieving the conservation goals that we have required. So rather than restart collection of these charges and start enforcement on a program that we think should be reconsidered, we are going to request, we are going to suspend those surcharges once again, but we will commit to coming back to this board later this calendar year with a concept for how to replace the MCP while retaining its values to both the system and the buildings that may, that use it wisely. And with that, I think it's back to our officer.
Great, well, with that, we'll go ahead and turn to the public testimony.
Oh.
Okay.
Don't we go through the calendar of events, or is that the end? That's the end.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
no,
sorry.
there's, you get public testimony and then the calendar.
Okay, all right.
And then a little more. Okay, so public testimony portion of the hearing, we'll go ahead and begin that now. So far, we've just got one speaker, Eric Goldstein with the Natural Resource Defense Council.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Chair Carney,
Could you
members
come
of
up
the
here,
board.
so you can actually come up here so the camera can get you?
Sure.
How's that? Good afternoon, Chair Carney, members of the board. My name is Eric Goldstein. I'm the New York City Environment Director at the Natural Resources Defense Council. As many of you know, NRDC is a national nonprofit legal and scientific organization active on a wide range of environmental and public health issues around the city, across the nation, and around the world. We're based right here in New York City, where we have taken a particular interest in protecting the New York City drinking water supply and ensuring that this system is in good operating order. NRDC, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. NRDC supports a vibrant DEP capital program and recognizes the enormous challenges of keeping the nation's largest municipal water and sewer system in a state of good repair and sufficient to meet important public health and environmental needs. And accordingly, NRDC has long supported increases in water rates that, one, keep pace with inflation, two, where all funds are used for water and sewer related purposes, three, which effectively address the challenges faced by low-income water ratepayers, and four, where stormwater fees are based upon impervious surface and actual runoff rather than water usage. However, since the current proposal is deficient in these areas, NRDC opposes the rate proposal as it's now structured. We recognize, of course, that DEP faces significant and expanding water and sewer capital needs. Take the issue of resiliency and preparing the city for the stormwater impacts of the climate crisis. DEP Commissioner Agarwal recently testified that recognizing the threats to safety and property from increased rainfall and more intensive storms, a $30 billion program is needed just to protect 80 of the most at-risk neighborhoods subject to chronic and severe flooding. But without additional funding, it will take 30 years to implement this stormwater resiliency strategy. On top of that, there are other critical water and sewer infrastructure needs that many of which you've heard about today. Addressing combined sewer overflows, removing all lead service lines, maintaining our 19 upstate reservoirs and the tunnels and aqueducts that bring water to a thirsty city, and enhancing our 14 aging sewage treatment plant infrastructure to meet today's challenges. Of course, DEP can't meet all of these needs alone, relying solely on water ratepayers. The city needs additional funds from New York State, from the Environmental Bond Act, from the Environmental Protection Fund, and an equitable distribution of these monies. We also need to ensure that New York City gets its fair share of federal funds from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act and other federal programs. And we urge you, the Water Board, to use your good offices to press state and city officials, state and federal officials to ensure that these funds are forthcoming. But it is simply wrong to burden New York City water ratepayers with a 9.5% increase, one which soars well above the rate of inflation. For one thing, water rates are regressive and hurt low-income New Yorkers disproportionately. The proposed rate hike would boost water and sewer fees by nearly $100 a year for the average residential customer. While water rates here are lower than some other cities, this sharp proposed increase is excessive, unduly burdensome to low-income New Yorkers, and fails to incorporate long-sought and long-promised rate reforms. NRDC offers 3 recommendations. My colleague Larry Levine and I have been advancing these ideas before the board and before other city forums in one way or another for the past 15 years. Here we are again today. First, we recommend that the mayor withdraw his request for the rental payment that would be charged by the water board under the fictitious rationale that the board is renting the water and sewer system from the city. Talk about financial gimmicks. This proposal is nothing more than an effort to soak water ratepayers with a 3.1% rate increase to cover non-water and non-sewer related city expenditures. Those bonds, those old general obligation bonds, have long been paid off. For several years, City Hall has waived the city's so-called right to request these payments, and for very sound reasons. These payments represent a regressive tax on New Yorkers at a time when urgent water and sewer needs are not being adequately funded. The Eric Adams proposal reverses the policy of both former Mayor Bloomberg and former Mayor de Blasio, both of whom recognize that the legitimate purpose of these rental payments to pay off the old city bonds has long been satisfied. Eliminating this rental payment would by itself slash the proposed 8.5% increase by more than a third, and the water board should use every tool in its power to oppose this rental payment. After all, the name of this body is the Water Board, the New York City Water Board, not the New York City Water and Other Unrelated General Expenses Board. And for the administration, and this administration has the flexibility to determine how much of a rental payment to request. And certainly, the amount requested here, which would soar to over $1 billion over 4 years, is excessive. Second, the Water Board should finally adjust its stormwater rate structure by adopting a more equitable formula that incorporates best practices of water systems around the nation. DEP and the Water Board have been studying these issues for years, but now is the time to act. Over 1,000 cities across the country base their stormwater charges on a property's impervious surface. In other words, they base their stormwater fees on how much stormwater a property generates. The Water Board, however, continues to set stormwater rates based upon customers' water usage. That makes little sense. It has the effect of subsidizing commercial and industrial water users at the expense of residential customers, and it provides no incentive for property owners to minimize stormwater runoff and prevent that runoff from exacerbating flood dangers in the time of changing climate. Finally, we recommend that the Water Board do more to assist low-income water ratepayers who are struggling every day to meet their family's basic economic needs and who should not be unduly burdened by regressive water rates. To be sure, the board has moved in the right direction on this issue in recent years, but it hasn't done enough. The board needs to assure that all New Yorkers, especially low-income residents, can afford essential water and sewer services. One way to accomplish this is with greater movement to expand the lifeline and minimum rate concept, which admittedly you've been moving in that direction, and adopt a more complete income-based rate structure. An immediate step would be to boost funding for the multifamily water assistance program so that all low-income families that apply and qualify for this benefit can receive it. It's $12 million now. It probably needs to be doubled to meet existing needs. As a 2023 U.S. Environmental Protection Agency report stated, it's the obligation of municipal water managers to provide both clean, safe water and affordability to its consumers. That should be the driving force between this water rate proposal. We urge you to exercise your authority and independence, help achieve these objectives, and reject the administration's flawed proposal in its current form. And we thank you for your attention.
Sir, will you be submitting that?
Yes.
Terrific.
Okay, terrific. With that, I'll just check and see if there's anybody else who wanted to speak, because I think Mr. Goldstein is the only registered speaker. No? Okay. Before I go ahead and close, we've got a list of the future meetings that are up on the board before we turn on June 13th to vote. But Chairman Carney, is there anything that you wanted to offer?
I just want to thank the staff. Great presentations. Had the benefit at least one time before, but they are terrific presentations. It's important to me that if there are issues or concerns that ratepayers have, that they raise the points that they choose to raise. I thought that there was a lot of logic in the presentation. If you don't like it, or if there are things about it that you would like for us to consider, we need to know that. Mr. Goldstein just gave us 3 very clear points to address. We will address them in our meeting, but please know that it's important to hear from ratepayers. That's all I got, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. With that, we'll go ahead and conclude this, the second of our 5 borough hearings for this year. The board will consider all of the public testimony and will vote on its budget and rates for next year at its upcoming meeting on June 13th. If adopted by the board, the new rates will take effect on July 1st. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.